This is a piece that I'm doing that's going to be probably a gouache mostly painting. And it'll have the circle behind her and the trees like, let me see. This was last month's award painting for my patron at that tier. And you can see this is a gouache painting too. And mixed media, mostly gouache, but it's still a mixed media. Like the circle is acrylic. All of that's gouache. All of her is gouache. But there are some pieces to this element that are like other things. Like the line work is done in ink. The white highlights are done with a paint pen. You know, stuff like that. Some of the eyeshadow blending, I blended the paint with a little bit more, gave it a more refined look by using pencil. She's outlined also in a white pencil. Prismacolor, I have some Artist Loft, you know, just a few different color pencils that I have. And, you know, all this detail work, though, is gouache. So I drew her out first in pencil, regular old mechanical pencils that I get from the dollar store, nothing special. And then I did this one the same way. I sketched her out with graphite, and then I do the line work. I go back in over it with the color pencil. I use a water-soluble one, though. The one that I have right here is a Reeves brand, but I just grab whichever one is closest to me. I don't have a particular favorite, so sometimes it's a water-soluble pencil by Prismacolor or whatever, but as long as it's water-soluble. Only because then that helps it kind of blend in to the gouache. And then I erase the pencil marks, the hard lines anyway. The shading to give it value, I don't really worry about that. But I erase the harder lines because they will show up in the paint and kind of give it a muddiness. And I don't like that. So that's why I use a pencil that I'm thinking is going to be neutral. So it's not always the same color. Sometimes the color is a darker red. Sometimes it's a purple, like a berry color, plummy color. It's between this color, which is kind of like a cinnamony red, or this one, which is like a more red. Sometimes it's a brown one, you know, something within these tones. And sometimes it's every blue moon I use that one. Still kind of in that tone. But sometimes it's this one, which is like a plum color. Or magenta, which is that one. So it just depends on my goal for that piece. I think that's the one I was using. I hope that's the one I was using. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. So that, and then I erase, like I said, afterwards, and then go ahead and start the painting process. I'm using a little template here for the triangles because I really want them to be nice and clean. I kind of sketched them on here, so some of them I'm not going to have the exact shape for on her necklace, but for the earrings I just wanted them to be as clean as possible. I really like how I did her glasses. They were smaller, but I said no, I want them bigger because she's kind of a caricature, but not, you know. It's like I do this thing where I have this realism I'm trying to create, but also still keep true to my style, which is a little bit more surreal, you know, a little alien-like, some of their features, you know. And so, yeah, there you have that. I want to put some pattern details in her head wrap the same way I did all of these details in the base of her necklace, you know. even though she's got a busy necklace going on. I think I'm going to just keep that simple. I don't know. Or somehow tie it into the wrap. I don't know. The same way with that one, I'm kind of working it out as I go. I knew the general direction before that I wanted to go in. Now I'm kind of just working it out, the rest. So that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and finish lining this out with the pencil, color pencil. And then I'll start painting. I'm using my custom gouache palette. The gouaches that I have in there are Reeves, Winsor Newton, and a couple of Holbeins that I was able to pick up. I really want a whole set of Holbein at some point, if that's how you say it. It might be Holbein. I don't know. But I don't want the acrylic gouache though. I want this traditional gouache. I see a lot of people like the acrylic gouache, but I think I want to go traditional. And then I really feel like that is going to really take my gouache over the next level. I still love oil paints, but lately I've just really been into watercolors and gouache. But I still love my oil paints. They are bae. And I probably will get back into them when I work on something a little larger. But for these quick pieces that I want to just get done in a couple of days, I'm kind of doing a whole mixed media situation on that. All right, so I'm going to do a time lapse for the rest of this, and I'll come back and maybe explain some things to you guys. I'll try to slow it down some so that and probably do a voiceover explaining what I'm doing. But I also want to do this because I'm filming this also for YouTube. So it's going to be sped up some. So, okay, bye. All right, so here we go. We are doing exactly what I explained before, where I'm taking the color pencil and I'm doing the line work. You saw me use the stencil there to do the triangles on the earrings. The ones on her necklace, like I said before, I kind of just freehanded those because they were different shapes and sizes. I go in now with the gouache paint and I use the burnt umber, burnt sienna, and flesh tint, and a little bit of the yellow ochre, or sometimes a light green to give her complexion a very neutral complexion, because the burnt sienna can tend to be kind of red. I think I mentioned that when I talk about it in the next video. So yeah, that's all I did here. Just doing the first layer of the skin tone and then, you know, building up layers from that point forward. What I'm using is this is my palette. It's my little custom made palette. It's a mess, yes, I know. But here I'm using for her skin tone these three colors. I'm using the burnt sienna, the burnt umber, and flesh tint, or flesh pink, I think it's called. I can't remember. These three. Sometimes I go in with a little bit of the green here just to make her skin tone, but not too much. Maybe more so this one, which is the yellow ochre, to kind of neutralize her skin tone from being too red, because this can sometimes come off red. And that's it for the skin tone. I'm now just kind of blocking in the shadows where there would be shadow and blocking it in. It's going to dry lighter because that's what gouache does. So what I tend to do when I'm doing this is making sure that I don't dilute my gouache. I use it kind of as a straight pigment, straight off the palette, wetting my brush very, very little so that it's like really opaque. So that when it dries, even though it's going to dry lighter than what I really want it to dry, it's not as light. And because her lips are going to be kind of full, I've created a shadow underneath it so that it kind of gives the illusion that they're kind of full and plump. I'm also creating like light shadows where her glasses fall, her nostrils, things like that, where her earrings would be kind of blocking her face, and her jawline to create, you know, the depth of a jawline, And I'm going to go in and do shadows around the top parts of her necklace. And also in here where you see her skin as well. And then I'll just keep building up the layers with the skin, correcting where need be if it's too red or too whatever it's not supposed to be. I'll work on details and all that stuff last. I just really like to get the skin done first. And I usually will do like the pops of the eyes, you know, kind of like as a finishing thing, because that's just what I like to do. I like to finish the eyes and really give them the oomph at the end, because that to me signifies a finished painting. The eyes, and that's just like one of my signature things as far as the painting. Even with glasses on, I still try to make sure that you can really like get those eyes. And I'm going to have to create an illusion that this is glass, so I might put like some type of tint on it. I'm not sure yet, but I'll figure it out as I go. And here we are again on the second layer, and it's looking kind of red, but keep in mind that I also, like I said before, mix it up and neutralize it with a green base yellow or just a light green. And it does cancel out that very clay looking red, which the burnt sienna tends to be very clay like. I see a lot of artists that don't know about color mixing tend to use the burnt sienna straight as skin tone, and it kind of makes your person that's supposed to be brown skin look kind of like clay. So to neutralize that, because it is a good starting point, you just have to use things that cancel out red. So you got to know a little bit of color theory. And as I'm going in, I like to, as you can see, that's what I did now. You see where I think I just missed it, but you can see how it's starting to cancel it out and that looks so red. That is me going in with the yellow ochre, which is like a mustard color yellow. So it has a little bit of green in it. Now I'm just bringing back the shadows here. Shadows where like her glasses are. There's going to be a shadow around the glasses. Depending on how you want the light to look like it's falling, you create a shadow to differentiate the jawline from the neck, you know, so that it looks like the jawline is actually sitting out away from the neck. Also with like where her turban is, you create a little bit of shadow there. Where the fabric lays up against the skin, and the same thing like where her earrings are sitting, where they're laying up against the skin, you create shadows there. Now I'm just blocking in her brows and really starting to define the details of like her nostrils and things like that, and just areas where, like I said, there would be some shadow, like from the way her frames are on her face and stuff like that. Also just kind of doing the same thing in her to create the illusion of her dimples, to create the illusion of a very puckered, pouty lip, full, nice, juicy, plump lips. And also I even do it on the inner parts of her lip, just so you can see that there's the fact that there's a shadow there from her lips, just one being over top of the other. And then making her teeth, there's a shadow from her lips being over her teeth. So you create a shadow even around that part. All of this to give the pictures depth and dimension. Slowly getting this piece done. The last time I recorded, you saw the time lapse of me getting her skin done the way I wanted her skin to look for this particular picture. We still got a little ways to go. I still have to go in and do more detail to her eyes. But right now what I'm doing, because I think I'm finished with doing her skin at this point, because I do know that this will get darker when I varnish it. I'm just going in with my pencil and doing a few things. Like I just finished kind of giving her jawline a little bit more definition with a pencil so that you can see that there is a shadow underneath. And I'm just lightly kind of going over certain areas that I feel like I have a little bit more control with the pencil than I would with the gouache. I'm still I say fairly new with gouache, even though I have created quite a number amount of paintings. I still feel like I'm still experimenting. I'm still learning techniques, the way I like to do things. Also still looking at a lot of videos where I might learn a thing or two. Anyway, so that's just how I create shadows. And this is a mixed media piece, so I like the idea of using multiple mediums anyway. So to create the image exactly the way I want to. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You know, some people I notice will comment on a watercolor painting because the artist decided afterwards to use some pencils or whatever. And I'm just like, I didn't know there was like this unspoken rule of what materials constitute what. And I guess, you know, you could say it's a mixed media piece instead of just a watercolor. But I think that if the majority of your, now I'm going in with some pencil. This is just a graphite pencil, dollar store mechanical pencil, because I prefer mechanical pencils most of the time when I'm doing sharp line work. When I'm doing more stuff that requires me to blend and create values and shadows and stuff like that, I'll just go in with a regular number 2 or one of the more professional pencils that have different hard and soft leads. Like, let's see if I have one in arm's reach. I see I don't have any in here. Normally I do. I have some charcoal ones that have different lead, like professional charcoal lead pencils, but I don't see any graphite ones in this particular jar. But they do have them. They're like 2B. Oh, here's one. This is the Faber-Castell, and this one is H. And I think H is a really hard lead. Yeah, it's a hard lead. Let's see. I even have them in, this is another one, and this is a HB. And I even have water-soluble graphite that has different leads. This is a HB, but, you know, you can blend this out with water. So different, yeah. But usually just for these types of things where I'm using it more so for line work, I just use my mechanical pencil. Now, like the previous painting that I've already shipped off to the owner, I had the circle in the back. I just use this mirror I have here. If you have a plate or a bowl or whatever, just to, you know, you can just use the tools you have. And I just lay it right there to kind of make sure it's centering her face. And then I just take my pencil, go around it, and then I fill it in. I usually like to fill it in because I'm using the metallic gold. I usually use actual paint. Like, I say actual paint as if gouache isn't. But I use acrylic paint. And I use these. I have this metallic gold that's it's really nice. It's like using fluid acrylic, like the Liquitex fluid or the golden fluids, but it's folk art or deco art. This one's deco art, but I have folk art over there as well, and they're really, the viscosity is really like liquidy and fluid, and I just use whatever's in the lid and fill that circle in for this piece. I'm still trying to decide though on what I want to be a metallic gold versus what I want to be a painted to give the illusion of gold, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm trying to decide, do I want her glasses to have a metal finish, and do I want them to actually be that shiny metallic from using the Liquitex, I mean the liquid paint, or do I really want to just give the illusion of metallic metal, the illusion of a gold metal by painting it with colors that create a metal looking finish, or do I really want it to have that metallic? You understand the difference I'm trying to say? I don't know if you remember the painting, I wish I'd have did this video while I still had the painting, but I'm just trying to decide, do I want her glasses or maybe her jewelry to be gold, or do I want them to be black or tortoiseshell? Or that's the stuff I'm working on now. I'm trying to make those decisions now. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead, I guess, today, work on her eyes. And I think I'm going to start doing that with paint first. So I have my Gouache palette. This is my custom palette. I've been blessed recently with some money from someone who believes in me. That's been happening a lot lately, and I'm just so grateful for it. I'm so thankful. God is so good. And I'm just so grateful that there are people in the position that believe in my work and believe in my stuff, even when I don't. You know, some days I feel like, what am I doing? And I get discouraged. And I'll just, I get discouraged sometimes. But anyway, there are people who are like, no, we believe in you. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And that's just so good. It's so good. It's awesome. What I'm doing now, I'm going to work on her eyes, but I'm also going to just tighten up little areas that kind of might be bothering me. They might not bother the average person who would be looking at my art, but it bothers me. Like, I want to kind of tighten up the darkness underneath her nose a little bit. And it's so weird because you're not really even going to be able to see all of this. Let me blend it out just a bit. Because it's gouache. So, gouache dries lighter than it does when it goes on. So you have to really kind of be careful that you're not putting too much pigment on, or, you just have to be careful. Which is sometimes the reason why I like to use the pencil, because it's like instant gratification. I can kind of see where this is going. I really want her lip to look like she has a really nice pucker there. But I also don't want it to look like she's got one of those little weird mustaches, like from, who was that artist from the olden days? There was a silent minstrel sort of type. Charlie Chaplin. I think he had a little mustache here and a little one underneath. I mean, a little thing. What do they call that under the lip? Because the chin part is like the goatee, but what is that thingy under the lip? So that's what I'm doing. Just creating some shadow to kind of give the illusion that her bottom lip is really nice and full and puckers. That's how you get that depth. That's a little tip for you guys that are into painting portraits or faces. Well, portraits, yeah. Portraits doesn't necessarily mean realism. Decided to turn the flash on. I'm going to start a hyperlapse video for the rest of this process, or for what I'm going to do next. I don't know if it'll be for the rest of this process because I have other stuff I got to do today. So what I've done, you've seen so far, is I've created a nice little shadow under her lip. I've given her neck more definition. That's just the style of necks that I do. Some people say they look too strong. I like it. I like those necks. If I were doing a plus size woman, maybe I wouldn't make the neck as defined. Or maybe she's kind of a person who's heavy bottom plus size, so she doesn't have a thick neck or whatever. Anyway, the case is, this is how I usually do necks. It has been the way I've been doing necks for quite some time now. Maybe it was a little bit of a variation. But when I look around at all my paintings, it's pretty much kind of similar to that. Anyway, so that's just my style. my little thing. The same way I'm really funny about the eyes. Okay, so what I'm about to do now, like I said, is just go in and do some detail to her eyes. I've already whitened them and whitened her teeth with the gouache that I use. I use the titanium white and a little bit of the flesh tint mixed into it so that it's not too stark white. I just, this is a thing I don't really like, you know. I find that it just looks so artificial when it's so white. But I also know that like people who are really in optimal health and great health tend to have really white eyes. But anyway, that's a little fact or something to that effect. So what I'm going to do, like I said, is take the paint and go in and just do some touch-ups. I'm also doing, you'll probably see me going in with my pencil and doing things like I really want her brow bones to have a really nice highlight to them. And I find that I can get a better highlight using the pencil and then just kind of blending it out with my finger. This is a water-soluble pencil, and so it's kind of like a watercolor pencil, you can kind of say. But I don't usually use them in that way. I just like that they're blendable, and if I have to, I can kind of blend it out with a little bit of water. I'm probably going to hit her highlights a little bit more, here and here, Cupid's bow, nose, collarbone, you know, right in here, and then I'll put the circle behind her, and I think I'm going to do some pattern details in her scarf. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, what you're going to just see is this time-lapse version of me doing the rest, and I'll do a voiceover explaining what I'm doing. Okay, guys? All right, bye-bye. Okay, we're nearing the finish line here. I'm, like I said, just doing some highlights now. First, I was doing shadows. Now I'm creating highlights. I'm using the pencil and the paint to do both that. I'm also filling in her eyes. I will also create a shadow for her eyes as well, so that it looks like the glasses are creating a shadow, and her lashes also create a shadow of darkness on the top parts of her iris. And still just going in, tightening up things, giving her a waterline, which is usually the pink part of your eye where you see your lashes come from, and the pink part of your eye where the tear duct is. And then I'm going in and do the lashes. And just like I said, adding the little finishing touches to her face. I will go in and give her white highlights around her tear ducts and the waterline to create the illusion of nice, healthy, wet, moist eyes. And then also the light in her eyes, it usually is a reflection of something that she's looking at, whether it's a camera or a light source. I will put the dots there to reflect that. You see, I did that with the paint pen. So now I'm getting a little bit more into the mixed media aspect. I'm going to do her glasses. I'm kind of trying to give them a tortoise shell look, the tortoise glasses. I did that when I painted the picture of a sunflower girl, and I really liked how that turned out. So I thought I'd do it here too. And so I go in with the burnt umber, and then the burnt sienna, and then again with the burnt umber, then a little bit of the dark green, and then I go back over it and kind of just like do a wet wash to kind of blend it all together so that it doesn't look like army fatigue, but looks more like a tortoise. And then I sometimes will bring back some of the dark parts that I feel like got faded when I did the wash with a pencil, a color pencil. So yeah, it's all just kind of working it until you actually are seeing the results you want, and trying different things, sometimes like different other mediums to get that look you're trying to achieve. And even with this, I wanted to look like she had on glasses, you know, with real glass lenses in them. So I do put a white highlight on them. And I wanted the glasses to look like they were like a shiny laminate type of material, like a clear lucite material of some sort, so the glasses also have a highlight. Yeah, so you'll see me doing lots of different things like that throughout. So here I am, again, just now going in and adding some more finishing touches. Still, I'm right now, I think what I did was, what you saw initially was me adding freckles. I just went in with a pencil because it's just a lot easier to do it with the pencil to add freckles. But then I also touch up her eyes, create the more darkness that I wanted on the top parts of her eyes for the illusion of her glasses being kind of shaded at the top. And also because of her lashes, creating a little bit of a shadow that falls on the top parts of her her irises. And also creating more shadows and folds or creases, just really bringing that out in the fabric on her head wrap. I wanted the head wrap to look as if it were a camouflage look, and also even maybe that type of fabric. So it didn't reflect a lot of light. So there's not really highlights on here, but there are definitely shadows from the folds and the creases and stuff. And like I said, just going in and just adding those finishing touches, really getting those glasses right. And yeah, that's it. So here we are getting closer to the finish line. At this point, I'm going to probably photograph her before I do the background. Only because I also want to use this image on some wearable art merchandise. I did a lot off camera because I didn't mean for it to happen that way, you guys. I really wanted to show you this process, but it was just pretty much me taking gold paint and filling in the triangles, and then sitting here with paint and filling in tediously the circles. And then I used the white paint pen for the white parts because it was just a lot easier to just dab, dab, dab. But yeah, then I took this color pencil and these two different color pencils here to create the shadows inside the triangles, you know, and I'm still kind of working on that. But yeah, it's just, I was on the phone, and you know, I'm using my phone as my camera. I probably should use my camera that I actually died to have, you know, but it's just so inconvenient to record for long periods of time just to have your camera overheat on you, and then you have to stop and wait for it to cool down, and then you're just in a flow and you want to keep going. And because that happens more often than not, I just use my phone because my phone never does that. It doesn't overheat. Everything does what it's supposed to do right there. The Time-Lapse app, you know, that you can use to record in fast time is like my phone. I have to upload it and edit it to be a speed recording, and this just records in speed mode. So I took like paint markers, these are paint markers, and did the circles. I started off trying to do them with watercolor, and it was just taking way too long to get the, you know, the opacity that I wanted. And now what I'm doing is going in, with pencil and just darkening. I want all the edges to be dark, but then I want the edges that kind of fall towards the top to be even darker. So I'm just going in with my pencil and making those top parts a little darker, as if the light is falling, kind of like going towards her and falling down. That's why there's shadows right here under her glasses and stuff like that. Even though my work light is coming kind of up, shooting from an upward angle. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. It's just kind of getting the shadows where I want them to be. Getting them hooked up, I guess. And making sure that I do them everywhere, because it's like even shadows have to fall where they're like the triangles are laying over each other, you know. And it's just a lot easier to do, I find, with the pencils or something to that effect, because the paint sometimes runs or I don't know. It's just easier to do with the pencil. I can add a little pressure if I wanted a darker way. Less pressure for a lighter look. It's just easier. Have a little bit more control. Trying to give it that 3D effect. And this is just pretty much what I'll be doing for this part and for her earrings. Then I'll photograph it, and then I'll go back in and do the circle and the trees. And that'll be it. I'm still not even sure if I want to do the trees on this one. I think the other painting looked really great with the trees, but I'm not sure if I want the trees on this one. So it might be maybe city buildings or something to that effect for the background. I don't know yet. This one looks a little bit more urban. So yeah, we'll see. All right. Bye. I'm just adding here, like I said, more shadows and things like that. It's really pretty much a finished piece at this point. I'm just adding little touches here and there. The background I do decide to do off camera because it's really basic. It's simple, and it wasn't that I made the decision to do it off back camera, but someone's always calling me when I'm recording, and I'm talking on the phone. I can't talk on the phone and record. So yeah, but I do show you the finished piece, and if you'd like to see the trees painted or something, a tree demonstration of that particular tree, I can definitely do an upload and a tutorial on how I did those trees for the background. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me as a patron.